When FNAF fans saw the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie, and even the first movie back in 2023, quite a few people noticed that the movie has many elements and plot details which are similar to the novel trilogy. The first movie had some details relating to the novel trilogy, specifically the Silver Eyes, but most of them were just references to the novel, like the scene with Foxy and Abby, and also Ella, of course. But with this second movie, there were definitely more plot points and story details that were in the writing style of the Twisted Ones. So let's have a quick look at these elements, but there's also something else that the second movie also connects to, which I don't think many people have pointed out. So let's look at the writing style of Scott Cawthon. So let's quickly start with the first movie. The first thing I want to point out is how both protagonists are drawn back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza because of their past with a dead sibling or a dead friend because of the killings at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Although in the movie's case, it's a little bit different because Mike, he kind of accidentally found himself at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and discovering the place's connection to his brother's death. Whilst in the novel trilogy, in the Silver Eyes, Charlie intentionally goes back to Hurricane, Utah because she knows her friend Michael Brooks died in the pizzeria, and also kind of tied to this is her brother Sammy Emily, which she remembers he was taken away by the Spring Bonnie Man in the Yellow Rabbit suit. As Spring Bonnie Man, I don't mean Glitch Trap, no, I mean the Yellow Rabbit, of course. But her trying to find answers is kind of like a deeper motive. Throughout the main plot, she's just kind of having a reunion in Michael Brooks' honor, and they go to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza more for a nostalgic trip, I guess. That's the reason why they sneak in there. So it was kind of a deeper motive for her to try and find what happened to Michael Brooks, I guess. But it wasn't the sole reason she went back there, so there's kind of a similarity again to the movies where trying to find the past isn't the original or sole reason for going to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but there is definitely differences there. Another similarity the first movie shares with the Silver Eyes is the ending. This one was definitely the one that was called out the most by people, with the Springlock ending with William Afton in both movies. He dawns on the Spring Bonnie Yellow Rabbit costume, and then he gets Springlocked in the end, and then the animatronics drag him away. But again, there's differences here. In the novel trilogy, in the Silver Eyes, Afton gets Springlocked because of Charlie, the protagonist. She's the one to trip the Springlocks, whilst in the movie, it was almost comedically, it was the cupcake that caused it. Which, I don't know if fans really liked that scene or not, because it's kind of goofy at the same time that William Afton got Springlocks because of the cupcake. But I didn't hear a whole lot of people complain about it. I heard some, but not a whole lot. So, what do you guys think of this? Did you guys find this stupid or not, that William Afton died because of the cupcake? Also, in the first movie and the novel trilogy, but more specifically, the fourth closet, there's heavy emphasis on the animatronics being possessed by kids. Scott wants to put emphasis on the animatronics being the victims, not the villains. And in both of them, some of the main characters interact with the kids' souls in the animatronics. Continuing on with the missing children / the animatronics between the novel universe and the movie universe, with all the kids' spirits, they think that the Yellow Rabbit, Spring Bonnie, William Afton is their friend, but then they are convinced otherwise and told the truth that basically he killed them, and then basically the animatronics go and turn on William. In both universes, it was the missing children victims as the animatronics, the classic animatronics, but in the novel trilogy's case, it was in the fourth closet with the amalgamation. Also, small connection is that in the first movie, Vanessa shoots William Afton in the Yellow Rabbit suit and it does nothing. And in the novel trilogy, in the Twisted Ones, Clay shoots one of the animatronics, Twisted Freddy, and it basically does nothing. It kind of slows him down a bit, but it does nothing. Now, there is one more element which I'm going to be talking about later on, which connects to both the first movie, the second movie, and the Silver Eyes, but I'll be talking about that when I'm wrapping up my section with the second movie and the Twisted Ones / the rest of the novel trilogy. Let's look at those. The most major connection, of course, is that the animatronics are no longer bound to the pizzeria. In both of them, it looks like Scott wanted to expand and not just have the setting be stuck in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and expand outwards to basically anywhere. So he had the animatronics leave the pizzeria, go to other locations, they hunt specific targets, they go do specific tasks and all that in both of them, and they're both basically puppets for the main villain. So yeah, this is definitely the most obvious connection between the novel trilogy and the movies. This is definitely where you can notice Scott's writing patterns and how he wants to push the barriers and expand the Five Nights at Freddy's world. Now, a lot of people didn't like the Twisted Ones and the FNAF 2 movie because the animatronics left the pizzeria. They thought that they should have stayed in the pizzeria just like the first movie, just like the first novel, Having them free roam in the outside world and go to people's houses, go and stalk people, do certain tasks in the outside world, that was not a good choice. That's what a lot of people thought, a lot of fans, a lot of critics. I wonder what you guys think, so let me know in the comments. What do you guys think of the animatronics leaving the pizzeria? Also, a minor thing I want to point out with Scott's writing and how he went with making a sequel for both the movie and the Silver Eyes. He made it a linear story and made the time jump be 1 year in both cases. I think I heard some people saying that the FNAF 2 movie was actually 2 years after, but no, I'm pretty sure it was 1 year, so there's a small connection there. It doesn't really mean anything. Of course, just having a 1 year time gap is pretty normal in a lot of films and all that and stories, so it's nothing too special, but it's something I wanted to point out, and especially with Scott Cawthon, who likes to jump back and forth when he does the games. He did not do that with the movie and the novels. He wanted to keep it more simplistic, I guess. Also, another kind of connection is in the FNAF 2 movie with Vanessa's past, how she has to face the past and her trauma with her father, William Afton. In the novel trilogy, in the Twisted Ones, Charlie also kind of faces trauma from William Afton, and she also has to face her past with her father and all that. Also, another theme that appeared in the second movie that kind of ties back to the novels was the whole perception of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to the public. In the second movie, it was hyped up as this urban legend, this kind of story. Like, people didn't think it was real. Some people thought it was real. Everyone was just interested in it. And that kind of reminds me of, I think in the Twisted Ones, the town might have thought the same thing. Or maybe it was just something amongst the characters, the main characters, where they just poking fun and remembering the legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza with the murders. I think that was something that was in the Twisted Ones, or maybe I'm just thinking of the Fazbear's Frights, because I know in the Fazbear's Frights, William Afton, it was very well known that he was the killer in there, and I'm pretty sure Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the entire brand image was built on the horror about the murders and all that, kind of like the movies. And this also extends to the games, of course, with FNAF 3, how it became an urban legend and they made Fazbear's Frights, and also in, of course, Help Wanted and Security Breach, where allegedly the core collection of games exists in universe made by some rogue indie developer, allegedly. So there's definitely a thematic connection across all these different forms of Five Nights at Freddy's, with the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza brand, the image of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Fazbear's Entertainment, is perceived as some sort of urban legend with the murders, with the history surrounding the past, with it being very dark, a very shady history around the company. Also, another kind of connection with the animatronics in both the Twisted Ones and the FNAF 2 movie is that in the Twisted Ones, the characters, they kind of don't understand what the Twisted animatronics are. They don't know what, like, state they're in, if they're functional. They don't know how dangerous they are. They know they're dangerous, of course, but they just don't know how dangerous they are. It's kind of a similar case in the FNAF 2 movie, where the toy animatronics, the people at the school and at the Fazfest, they don't know what the toy animatronics exactly are. A couple of them believe they're animatronics, but most of them believe they're people in suits. And they don't know how dangerous they are. They don't know what they're capable of until they actually strike and they show their strength. Also, a pretty similar thing with the animatronics, the characters, or at least certain ones. In the FNAF 2 movie with the Wizards, or more specifically, Withered Bonnie, he's kind of similar to Twisted Chica in the Twisted Ones, where both of them, they were all over the marketing. You'd assume they'd have a major role in the story, but then no, they have pretty much no role, or a very little role in the plot or the story. We see very little of them. Especially with Twisted Chica's case, she was just mentioned, she never even appeared, she was just mentioned as something that could exist. And the last major connection here that I want to talk about with the first movie also ties into the second movie, where in the novel trilogy, William Afton uses a fake name, Dave Miller, to basically befriend and manipulate the main characters, just like William Afton in the first movie as Steve Raglan, where he gives Mike the job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And in the second movie, Michael befriends the Spectral Scoopers crew and then manipulates them and shows off his knowledge about the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, the original location, and then uses them to his advantage. He has them killed, and then he has Lisa's body be possessed by the puppet, Charlotte. This is pretty similar to the Silver Eyes, with William Afton befriending the protagonists and then touring them around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and showing off his knowledge about the place. In the Twisted Ones, the animatronics, the Twisted animatronics, they're being controlled, they're instructed by William Afton to basically find Charlie, to stalk her, and to do anything else that William Afton needs to do so that he can achieve his goals. In the FNAF 2 movie, the toy animatronics, they're being controlled by the puppet Charlotte, and also technically Michael. The toy animatronics, they're being instructed by them, they're being controlled by them to basically kill parents, which is Charlotte's goal, and also to basically kill everyone in town, which was Michael Afton's goal. So in all of these, or more so the latter two, The main villain befriended the main characters so basically they could manipulate them and then get them to do tasks or achieve their goals. And you know what that should remind you of? Toy Chica also in the second movie, or should I say Charlotte in the second movie, where she was basically using Abby to free them from the building they're trapped in, their prison that they were previously locked away in, which Charlotte did by pretending to be one of Abby's friends, Chica, and then convincing her to use the computer to disable the perimeter lock program that was keeping them trapped so that they could be saved and then be freed from the pizzeria, free to roam outside of the pizzeria. Now, I wonder what that reminds me of. Five Nights at Freddy's security breach ruin with the Mimic and Cassie. The Mimic befriends Cassie, pretending to be Gregory using a fake identity, and then tricks her into disabling the Mex's program on the computer and then freeing the Mimic. So it's pretty clear with these connections that Scott definitely had a huge role in writing Secret of the Mimic and the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. Of course, it was already obvious before, but now it's very obvious that he's definitely got the same story, kind of the same ideas in the modern FNAF lore with all these different medias. And this also kind of connects again to Secret of the Mimic. M2 befriends Arnold and pretends to be Dispatch. And then it guides her into upgrading the data diver and then retrieving the Mimic blueprints. And then the Mimic gets what it wants, and then it turns on Arnold, and then it basically set free to cause chaos after it gets what it wanted. And what's the goal of the main villains in both these forms of media? It's just to kill. They just want blood. They want to kill everyone. Now, I wonder what you guys think of this motive, because isn't it kind of weird that Scott's gone in this direction in the modern day with the main villain's goals of just trying to kill, and that's the main motive, that's it? At least with the Mimic's case, it's an AI program, it doesn't really think, and it's of course had a violent history with the past where it got beaten by Edwin. But in the second movie, why does Charlotte and Michael just want to kill everyone? At least with Charlotte's case, she was kind of said to be in this weird state of her last moments, being in agony and then just wanting to kill parents because she blames them. I guess that makes sense, but then again, like I said in my review of the second movie, I just don't think that was portrayed well enough. It was portrayed pretty poorly because the movie went by so fast, I had to just quickly brush over everything. I think they had a good idea, but I feel like it was kind of like a show don't tell situation where they just said that was the reason behind her actions, and then the only thing they really showed was the final moments of her death to kind of show the agony she was going through, I guess, but it didn't really come off as that impactful. It didn't really make that sense. It kind of felt lazy, honestly, just having Vanessa say it, but I do think they had the right idea, but it was just really poorly executed. And then with Michael's case, I didn't really understand what his goal was. Like, I guess he wanted to carry on his father's legacy, but how is killing everyone in town carrying on your father's legacy? It didn't really make sense. We didn't even learn really what William Afton's legacy was. Like, was he trying to create Remnant or something? Probably, because we saw Circus Baby. But we weren't outright told what that goal was, why William Afton was killing in the first place in the movie universe. We weren't even told that. Like, maybe it has something to do with bringing someone back to life, or maybe achieving immortality with Remnant like he tried to do in the novels. Or maybe he wanted Remnant for another purpose, like just to give life to his creations, build up his restaurant, make his own sort of like an empire or something. Maybe he wanted to make another sort of family for himself. Or maybe he just wanted reluctant followers to do his dirty work just like he did in the first movie with the classic animatronics. Maybe William Afton's motives will be explained in the third movie, along with why Michael Afton wanted to just kill everyone, because it didn't really make sense to me. But that won't mean that the second movie is all of a sudden redeemed, because we were left without an answer in the second movie on its own. It just didn't really make sense. So in summary of this section, Scott really liked the idea of having the main villain pretend to be someone, have another identity, and then befriend the main characters, only to use and manipulate them into doing some sort of task that they need done, like freeing them from some sort of prison. And then after that, they'll turn and basically try and kill the main character, and then after that, the main villain would have gotten what they wanted and then basically been free to cause as much chaos as they pleased. Now, of course, all these plots aren't exactly the same. They all have their differences. They're all changed up a little bit, but they kind of follow this basic formula. And also at the same time, you might not see this as a sort of connection, because at the same time, kind of the whole thing with William Afton using the Spring Bonnie suit, using a fake identity to basically befriend and manipulate the kids, and then basically kill them, and then be free to cause more chaos after they got what they wanted. But in the same time, in that case, depending on what source you're looking at, from what media, He just kind of lured them into the back. He didn't really befriend them, kind of, and he just straight up killed them. He didn't really get them to perform some sort of task. He just killed them for the remnant. And also with the case before, when I was talking about how Spring Bonnie in the first movie and then the fourth closet, how basically the kids think that Spring Bonnie is their friend, but then they're convinced otherwise and then turn on William Afton. Yeah, William Afton was manipulating the children to basically do his dirty work for them. But then again, the spirits, they were already dead, and then they also ended up turning and then taking him out first. Whilst in these other cases, it's already too late. The villain's already gotten basically what they want, and then they have the chance to take out the main characters that they were manipulating. Now, across all these different medias, that's Ruin, Secret of the Mimic, the novel trilogy Silver Eyes, the FNAF 2 movie with Toy Chica / Charlotte, and then Michael, specifically with the Spectral Scoobers, but also with him throughout the movie entirely. That's 5 times at Freddy's that this happened. Maybe even 6 if you want to count the first movie with Steve Raglan. Now, like I said before, all of these don't have the exact same plot, but they're all pretty similar, at least with certain parts, like with either the villain that uses the main characters to basically do their task and then tries to kill them afterwards, or with their overarching goal of to just kill. So you can definitely see the way Scott writes these stories. He's definitely got a specific style and kind of like tropes that he likes to repeat, at least in more of the modern lore of FNAF, the modern age. And he's overall got a very unique and specific style in the way he tells his stories. Or maybe I really don't know anything at all about writing, and everything I've talked about in this video basically means nothing. I've basically just gotten everything wrong. I've just come up with random information and just put it together. I think what I'm saying is valid, but some people might not see it that way. It really just depends on the person, maybe. But I think these are all connections relating to Scott's writing style. But maybe it's just because I haven't read the novel trilogy in like 7 years since around the time the fourth closet came out. So I don't remember a whole lot about the books, honestly. So maybe I've just been yapping about random stuff this whole video and it doesn't really make sense or really connect in any way. But I think I've got most of these connections correct. I think I've analysed Scott's writing style for the most part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I really don't know if it lived up to your expectations or not. Maybe it wasn't as good as you expected, but I still really hope you enjoy it. Maybe you'll enjoy one of my other videos more. And that's it for this video, and hopefully that wraps it up for the FNAF 2 movie as a whole on this channel. Bye.